Up degenerates, Mad Merrigan here for Cold Bear Sports, and as always I have two familiar faces now at the channel. We have the bookie basher from out west, Mickey D. How's things?
Not too bad, Paddy. Looking forward to the weekend now. There's some good races at Sandown and Haydock.
Yes, very interesting. And the man himself, the king of pricing, Joe Value.
How are you, Paddy? Yeah, all good here, thanks. Not a bother, thanks.
Really interesting weekend ahead of us. Before we go over and touch on Sandown's card, let's just go to Haydock first, lads, and have a look at the Lancashire Oaks. We have at the head of the betting a very short price favourite, 𝗟𝗏𝗄𝐻, and then we have the Mystery Angel, the 𝗟R𝗱𝗯𝗏 filly. I think she's 6-1 second favourite, so a massive gap in the market here. Joe Value, I'll just come to you first. Is the favourite far too short, or is she the one with the form in the book? Because I don't know, I doubt it.
She probably has the form in the book to win, but the fact that there's rain, they're giving rain there in Haydock, that would definitely be against her. She's much better on good form ground. The one I like at a bit of a price is La Luna. She won a Haydock last time out on good to soft ground. She seems very progressive. She's a very honest mare. She's going to get a nice trail into the race behind Dubai Fountain, because she's drawn close to her, and Mystery Angel will probably be up there as well. Look at about, I think she's 11-1 I've seen. I think she's a fair little bet each way. She'll do me.
And we'll come to Mickey D, the bookie basher himself. Mickey, the Lancashire Oaks, where do you land here?
Yeah, I agree with Joe that La Luna has a very strong chance in the race. The favourite Alpinista, Mark Prescott's yard, it has only one run this year, and it was a 4-horse field, and it's only won by a short head from 𝗏𝗏𝗏, and 𝗏𝗏𝗏 is now 14-1, and she's 9-4. That makes no sense. The disparity in the prices. It was pulled out as well twice in the last month due to a dirty scope. Now I don't know whether that was true or whether it was ground dependent or what with the rain. I came down on the 3-year-olds. The Dubai Fountain, it was a lot of money for before the Oaks, which was 12-14 of that, and then there was a lot of money for the last time, which was 5th in the Ribsdale. But Mystery Angel was 4th in the Musadura at York to Snowfall, and the George Bowie trained Horston was 2nd in the Oaks to Snowfall again. So I know that 9 of the last 10 has been won by a 4-year-old, but I'll either look like a bollocks or a genius. I'm going with a 3-year-old in this, and I think it has 3 favourites have only won it as well, sort of in the last 10 years. So I'm with the 3-year-old and with Mystery Angel. So see, it will test the 3-year-old filly's form, and they look to be a good bunch this year.
Yes, and definitely getting the big weight allowance. Definitely swayed me towards Mystery Angel as well. I just think her runs behind Snowfall, as good as form that's there this year, I think. 2nd in the Oaks, like if this was trained by Aidan O'Brien, lads, and finished 2nd in the Oaks, you'd be thinking it would be the favourite for this race. Albeit 𝗟𝗏𝗏𝗏's form is pretty solid, but you just have to think, getting the weight, maybe if she gets on harried up, she will be ridden close to the pace. But you'll be just hoping the Johnson filly and her don't get into a battle. The battle of the trios, they could actually get at it a little soon. Hopefully not, and we'll see a really good race. But I think they all have to beat the Bowie filly, and definitely an interesting runner and a good price for a mare that was 2nd in the Oaks. Right, let's move on then to the Old Newton Cup. And very interesting runner at the head of the betting here, Longsider. He has a terrible draw out in 18, but we are over 1.5 miles. It's his first run on the turf. He's 6-1 at the head of the betting. We have a day, Grand Bazaar. Joe Value, I'll just come to you here. Really interesting race. Not sure what's going to be favourite yet. There's a few of them close together at the head of the market. Where do you lie here, Joe?
Yeah, it's wide open, as you said, Paddy. 5 or 6-1 the field. I like this a day. It's trained by Simon Crisford, ridden by Mark Green, who will be fairly local to me. He lives beside a good friend of mine. So, but a day, like he's only had 6 lifetime starts. He got a bit bogged down in the ground at Ascot last time. I thought this ground is going to be a bit better. It's going to be a bit cut in the ground, but that won't bother him. And I think he's a solid horse. At around 10-1, he'll do for me.
Definitely interesting. Mickey D, the bookie basher, where are you? If you find a winner, you're going to get a nice price at 6-1 to feed.
Well, no favours in the last 10 years. So that's a stat that's against the fab. I came down on the Roger Varian trained Valryan Steel. It broke its maiden in Newcastle first time out last year to mile 2, and it grinded it out on the rail up along to get up at the line. It's first run this year. You see a 5 after, but it was 5th of 5 in Epsom in a very good handicap. It went back then to Kimpton, won twice. One at the second last run was got in the stewards room. But I like the turf, or the dirt to turf angle, similar to last year. One in Newcastle, then one on the turf, and it's a decent price each way, 9-1. And I'd give an each way shout to an outsider in it, Win O'Clock. I sort of half fancied it for Ascot, and the heavy ground took its toll. So that's a 16 or 18-1 shot. So for people that like an outside bet, maybe that might be a pound each way bet on further.
Yeah, definitely an interesting horse, big horse, but does well. Right, I thought the favourite was very interesting. Yes, he has a poor draw to overcome, but Sir Mark Prescott's chosen this race for his first run on the turf. Definitely of interest, and yeah, if he's a 4-year-old, obviously open to any amount of improvement. Let's not state the obvious, but it's just a very interesting that he comes here for the very first run on turf. So I think this horse must have a massive chance. And if he is a typical Prescott, you wouldn't know what he'd have up his sleeve. So definitely interesting. Right, lads, we'll move over to the Coral-Eclipse meeting. I'm just going to quickly touch on the first handicap here, Joe. I seen there was a couple of interesting runners. 𝗟𝐸 came back to form the last day. Had 𝗏𝗏𝗏, Farine Williams. Anything here, Pip, your interest before we swiftly move on to the group? I think it's a group 3, the next sprinter, group 2.
Group 3, yeah.
Yeah, as you said, Paddy, these all beat each other every other week. But there's one very likely raced horse that I'm just going to take a flyer on. He's called Firepower. He was a good 2-year-old. He was highly tried. Now he's having his first start for William Moore. He was with Clive Cox. Look, he couldn't either run. It's his first run in 240 odd days, but he'd be around 25-1 or that. I'm going to have something very small on him. He might just progress by them. And look, whatever happens on Saturday, he's a horse to look out for the rest of the season.
Yeah, myself, I just like 𝗏𝗏. I thought he came back to a nice bit of form and was a dominant enough winner. Right, let's move on to the charge, the group 3. So as it is, we have 𝗟R𝗏𝗏 at the top of the betting 6-1. For me, I don't know about his form the last day. The race was a bit weird, but definitely an interesting runner all the same. We have Keep Busy, Ken from the Dark. Mickey D, I'll just come to you on this one first. 𝗟R𝗏𝗏, 11-4 at the top of the market. Could you take the last run for granted?
5 of the last 10 favourites have won here, and to be drawn low is a big advantage. 𝗟R𝗏𝗏, yeah, he's improved since he was rated 91 when he moved from David O'Meara onto the sprint specialist Robert Cowell, and now he's raised to 130. That's a 22 pounds, that he has improved. But I think that the time that he won a couple of races back, that came from the dark, was very unlucky that day, and I think that came from the dark probably will beat him. The horse that I came down on is Keep Busy. It was second in Ascot last year, and it was 5th in the Prix de l'Abbé as a 3-year-old. 4-year-old this year. It won a listed race the last day in Ayr in a time of 58 seconds. That was good to firm ground, and you could see that it took a long time to pick up. But I think the bit of cut in the ground is suited more so. And I know that they're geared towards the Abbey, with the 5, on Longchamp Day or in Prix de l'Arc Day. So that's a 5 furlong race. So I think with an extra run in his belt, it ran in 58 seconds the last day. If it runs in 58 seconds the next day, it'll win.
Yes, very interesting. For me, I really like the horse at this meeting, and I really am very interested in it. I've seen it's actually been clipped a little bit more. Atlas Bay. This, for me, Marco Botti trains it. It's a son of 𝗵𝗶𝗏𝗏. This is a vast improving horse, and I think at around the 10-1, I think he's a bit shorter now, but he is getting a massive selection from me at the weekend. I really like him, and I think he's a sprinter on the up. Joe, value, what about yourself? Where does the value lie?
Yeah, well, I was just looking at the going, let us go on. The straight track is a good bit softer than the round track. And usually in Sandown, if it's soft, the rail is not the place to be. They move out to the middle of the track. Now, I'm going to take a chance on this came from the dark. The favourite deserves to be favoured because of his King Stand run, but this came from the dark. He loves a bit of juice in the ground. He was unlucky in the Palace House last time out. He missed the King Stand because of a setback. But, you know, I think he's every chance of gaining compensation in this race.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting race, and let's hope a horse can make a statement here and really blitz of the sprints. I have to say, the sprint races at Sandown are very exciting races to watch because there does tend to be, you need a little luck to challenge, always around the 2 poles. It's never just that straightforward. Right, let's move on to the Coral Challenge Handicap, and an interesting runner here, Mickey D, Magical Morning. You'll remember you mentioned on him in Ascot. He returned a 4-year-old for the John and Thady Gosden. Ran in, was it the Royal Hunt Cup or one of the big handicaps at the meeting? Definitely an interesting runner. Any more thoughts on this fella, Mickey, in the 225?
Yeah, he has a right chance. 5 favourites in the last 10 years for this race. And interesting, the favourite is Monaghan, but he hasn't run since March, and I don't know why. But there's an outsider that I'd give a good chance to, with I sort of fancied as well, and the ground went against it, is Bedouin Story for the 𝗟𝗏 yard. But I came down on Pythagoras, the Richard Fahey trained Ogden owned horse. It won a listed race in Pontefract last year, and it was only rated 89 at the time, but they thought a lot of it to put it into a listed race at the time. It was first time out this year to 𝗟𝐿𝐴 in the Blue Ribbon trial in Epsom. Then it was 6th in the Dante to Hurricane Lane, and to the only 2 lengths behind Roman, what do you call the Roman Empire. It ran in Ascot in the Golden Gate Stakes, and if you stopped the race at the mile pole, he had hit the front. He was all over the winner, but he died. And I think a fast run mile is what he wants. And he's about, I think I backed him at 9s this morning with Bet365. I think he's only 7s with the green Bookie in Ireland. And I don't know what else he is, but I'm strong on him each way.
Yes, Joe, value, what are you thinking? And a real interesting handicap and a tough race to get a handle on.
Yeah, as Mickey D mentioned, a Bedouin Story. He's a horse that's done me a few favours in the past. He won't mind a bit of juice. It's a race that I won't be getting too heavily involved in now. I'll leave it to Mickey D. He seems to have a good bit of work done on it. I'll just pass it on to you, Paddy, but I'm going to have something very small on Bedouin Story just in case.
I know, I just think Magical Morning was a massive return run. I think this could be a real player tomorrow or Saturday. So I won't really dwell on it too much. I think it's interesting. The Tory for Gosden, enough said. I think he's a great price and definitely will be bang there. Let's move on to the distaff. Now, the favourite in this race is definitely a strong filly. Statement. This is a daughter-in-law, man. Really a massive player, I'm thinking here. Mickey D, where do you stand in the Coral distaff?
I'm on an outsider here for the Frankie Dettori and John Gosden. Castena. It's about 14-1. The ground was totally against it in Ascot, and the previous run, it finished only 2 lengths behind. It was 5th or 6th that day, but it's only 2 lengths behind Snow Lantern, and that was a listed race in York. That's strong enough for him. I like the Gosden Oaks when they're going to a listed race. He doesn't put them in there for nothing. The ground was totally against it the last year, so I think it's great value and each way bet at 14-1. That's Castena for me.
Joe, value, where does it lie for you in the distaff?
Yeah, I think there's a right bet each way here. Number 2, 𝗟REA. She finished second behind. Had to finish in second twice behind that Creative Flair. And we all know what she went down and done in Royal Ascot. 2 runs ago, she ran very well. The last time, 12 furlongs in Newbury wasn't as good, but she's back to a mile now on Saturday. And at 8-1, Oisin Murphy Andrew Baldwin, they can do little wrong. I fancy her now at 8-1. I think she's a right bet each way.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting race for me, but I'm going to leave it short and sweet. I think statement's a good thing, and I'll move on from there. Right, we won't elaborate on it much more, but I think she's a really smart filly, and I think she's showed, and with ease in the ground as well, I think it'll play in her favour. Right, let's move on to the big one, boys. We have the globe-trotting superstar, the horse and jockey. We were lucky enough to have the jockey on the show. We're yet to have the horse on the show. But anyway, then we had the Joe show this morning, that made up for it. St. Mark's Basilica is, well, 13 to 8 and 6 to 4, lads. What are we thinking here? Is it a match, or what about a Dave as well? A really nice horse that likes a couple of ground as well, and then El Drama, the outsider of the field. A little disappointing, lads, that Mickey D, I'll just come to you first, that we've only 4 runners in what is, I suppose, a mouth-watering clash between a couple, but at the same time, you'd like to see a few more in here. This is a really good race.
Yeah, it's crazy to see the 4 horse field. 4th place is 32,000. There was, I think, 20,000 for 5th, and there's like 8 or 10,000 for 6th. Like, you hear the owners crying out that there isn't enough money in races like that, that they couldn't even run them. Like, it wouldn't spoil their handicap rating to go out and run and get a few pounds. Like, you know, it'll pay for a lot of oats for the year. There's 4 horses, we'll say, this year. It's one of the smallest. It's the smallest. Like, you don't have big fields usually, but this is crazy. Like, you know, this is the first time as well you see that the 3-year-olds meet their elders, and there's only 3 3-year-olds in the last 10 years. Mshriff has won 5 out of 8 starts on turf. It was last year's French Derby winner, and this year's French Derby winner was St. Mark's Basilica. That's the first that I can see that you had the 2 years, consecutive years, running against each other in the Coral-Eclipse. St. Mark's Basilica is sort of coming in under the radar a bit for the O'Brien yard. It won even though it won the Dewhurst last year, raced 112. Like, it won the French Guineas. And it was a nice price, 9 to 4. It was 3s in the morning. Mshriff as well is a class horse. Like, it's raced at over 120. Like, it's one of the top races in the world. Has won at 9 furlongs and has won at 12. I can see St. Mark's Basilica getting first run on him, but I think the hill and Sandown will prove beneficial to Mshriff, and I can see Mshriff winning.
Joe Value, I'll come to you. Very good analysis there, Mickey D. Joe Value, what are you thinking? This is going to be a tricky, trappy race.
Well, it might be, but like, what happens if David Egan pops out and tries to make all? And just like, as you said it, he's a world-class horse. So if he's the best horse in the race, why did not go out there and make your own fractions and take the look and running out of it, so to speak? Look, he's very difficult to oppose, isn't he, Mshriff? You know, the others have to be respected, but like, keep it simple, just pop up in front and go on with it, you know. Yeah,
David is a very tactical aware jockey, and as he's shown when he won the 2 big races, 2 completely different rides. One was right for the big day, and the other opposite ride was perfect for the next day. It was just, you could see that ride of aggression on the dirt and the ride of patience on the turf. But I think tomorrow this horse does not want it to be a tactical affair. So let's hope he can let him swing along and get it done. I think St. Mark's Basilica is definitely an interesting horse, because there's been no talk about this horse all year, but yet he's been the most impressive O'Brien horse there is. But yet nobody seems to give a shit about him. Like, realistically,
that's because the 2 rounds were in France.
No, but
that's true, Mick.
They talked a lot about all the other horses, all the other ones, high definition, and all the other horses that were bigged up all year. But this horse was just kept very quiet, but yet seemed to be very good, and seemed to be by far the best of the O'Briens. You know, the bigged up all shy ballot that won at Durhamstown, the Marcelli, remember Marcelli that won what was that Derby in Castletown in 1965? Would have won the Durhamstown. The horse that won the Guineas underperformed. The horse that was 2nd or 3rd, you know. So I don't know what it is about St. Mark's Basilica. Maybe he's just not all flash at home, and he's just a big improver on the track. But he'll have to improve again to trouble Mshriff. Mshriff's form, like, unbelievable, beating the Americans on the dirt, and then coming on to the turf in the Shima Classic and getting it done as well. I think it's there for him, but I think he has to make it a test. Right, lads. Do you want to touch on anything else later in the card? I didn't really fancy anything. If you have anything for the degenerates, but let's hope David Egan, a guest on our show, our first ever guest on the show, let's hope he can win the Coral-Eclipse on 𝗵𝗔.
Yeah, Paddy, I might just mention a horse there in 𝗵𝗀𝗃, if you don't mind. The 205 at 𝗵𝗃𝗃, 𝗵𝗃𝗃 is the name of it. I thought he was very impressive 2 starts ago at 𝗵𝗃𝗃. You can throw out his run at Royal Ascot. Things didn't really go to plan, but he still ran fairly well. He's around 10 or 12 to 1. I think that's a massive price each way. It's the 205 at 𝗵𝗃𝗃, 𝗵𝗃𝗃 or something like that is the name. Brian Ellison trains it. Yeah, Brian Ellison trains it. Emmett Mullins, I think, used to train it over here. But he's a good horse, and hopefully he gets to show that on Saturday.
Mickey D, give us one there that will bash the bookies. Give us one there that I can go up the road and hand Paddy Power his eviction notice out of Athlone.
I think Joe has that camera up there. I had written down 2 other horses for the weekend, and one is 𝗵𝗃𝗃. It's 14 to 1. Brian Ellison trained. He was right. He broke his maiden when he was with Emmett Mullins, and he was in that race the last day that Surefire won. So when he came across the track that way, he was pushed into the rail, and he got an easy enough ride after that. He won in 𝗵𝗃𝗃 as well off 75 before. The 9th in Ascot, can throw that out the window because we're all over the shop coming up the straight. So I'd fancy that. And there's a horse that I'm dying to see running again, and he's entered in the 245 in Limerick on Sunday. It's Howling Wolf, trained now by James Barrett. It's won 2nd time out when it was trained by Tony Mullins, and the horse that was 2nd that day was Santiago, that went on and won the Derby afterwards. He was rated about 90 last year. He's down to about 70. He was 5th of 26 eye-catching the last year over 7 furlongs. I wrote down straight away, must watch and Upton Trip, and he's entered in the 245 on Sunday in Limerick, and it's over a mile.
Lovely. Right, lads, listen, we have a couple of minutes, a sharp couple of minutes. So what we're going to do is, I just think we're not being fair to a horse here, a Dave. Let's just touch on the Coral-Eclipse again. This is a specialist 10 furlong horse, and a really multiple group winner with ease in the ground. They're on good ground, a very versatile horse. Just, is it a match between the O'Brien and 𝗵𝗃𝗃, or is there one here like a Dave? I know there's only the 4 runners that can spoil the party. Very versatile and very good. Joe,
you'd have to respect him, there's no doubt. Like, the digging the ground will suit him as well. But if you're thinking like 𝗵𝗃𝗃 is a world-class horse, I mean, you know, is a world-class horse? I don't think he is, to be honest with you. But you know, look, I don't. Look, we'll see what happens. Tactics could come into it, but
but a Dave has won Group 1s.
I know that he has.
If the ground came up heavy, that's when he was in its prime. And you could look at it that 𝗵𝗃𝗃 got beaten last year on Champions Day in Ascot on very soft ground. So he looks to be better on good to soft or better ground.
Right.
You know, it'll bring them closer, but for a deep and 𝗵𝗃𝗃 if the ground is really heavy. But I don't think that's going to happen. It's going to be soft at worst.
Right, lads. Unfortunately, we're going to run out of time. But anyway, as always, Mickey D, Joe Value, well done, great analysis. The time for cotton is over.
Thanks very much. Bye.
Cheers, lads.
Sound, Paddy. Thank you. See you, Mickey. See you, Mickey.